Monitro.
Good morning, members, officers and viewers. This Scrutiny Committee meeting is being conducted on a hybrid basis in accordance with the Local Government and Election Royal Act 2021, which will operate alongside the Council's standing orders. A recorded version of this meeting will be uploaded for public viewing as soon as possible, whilst translations of the proceedings can be provided upon request. The image and sound recordings may also be used for training purposes within the Council. In addition to my overall welcome, I welcome Ms Williams, who is our new Welsh language, or one of our new Welsh language officers, and Councillor Jason Hughes, who's the cabinet member responsible for this. Are you opening up, Ms.
Yeah, let's go with everyone. I'll open it. So yeah, we've got a few new faces. Thanks for noting that, Chair. Obviously, myself as head of service lead, Tracy McKim, and Reese, who's our director, service lead. But today we're reporting on last year's work. So Jodie, very new to that, and the new cabinet member who wasn't in place for last year. And also a reminder that we're reporting on last year's progress against the strategy that this committee previously agreed. So we're not really talking about what we're doing, but how we're doing it, if that makes sense. So this is the 1 year progress against our strategy, which is 2022 to 2027. That was adopted in council in 2022, but it went to this committee first. The purpose of the report is to look at our progress and achievements the council has made against the Welsh language standards and our general commitment to the Welsh language in the city and across all of our services. And Janice will just set out a few details of the things we'd like to highlight in the report, and we'll take questions after that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, the annual report is sets out a summary on pages 11 to 12. So as you all know, as part of the report, the City Council's commitment to Welsh language and our responsibilities, we're really keen to promote the use of Welsh both within the council and across our communities. We are also keen to make sure that we continue to celebrate our Welsh identity as a city and as a council through a wide range of events, our initiatives and our services, from our schools supporting learners of all ages to recognise the achievements of their local schools, to increase the language visibility and everyday use. And we've been really lucky this year. We've had, during this period, we had events such as the Gymraeg, we had St David's Day celebration in the riverfront, which was really positive as well in March, and helping us build towards the Eisteddfod coming in 2027. So, and importantly, it's about how we work with our Welsh language communities and our Welsh language organisations across the city to make sure that we're all working together to increase the use and to kind of celebrate our culture. So I'm going to pass over to Jodie. So as you mentioned, Chair, Jodie's our new Welsh Language Policy Officer. She only started in May this year, but importantly, she's worked in the team for a couple of years now and has been heavily involved in the Right Skills Board with Welsh language and increasing how we work with our partners to increase the use of Welsh within their organisations and communities as well.
Thank you very much, Jan. So I just wanted to touch on the fact that the report details some of the key developments. So pages 12 to 19, you can see that some of the key developments are the work we've done for Cymraeg, the translation arrangements, various policies, strategies and plans. This includes the culture strategy, Welsh and education strategy plan, and the 5-year promotional strategy. We've done work for promoting bilingual education, Welsh language promotional events, as well as the Welsh Language Right Skills Board. The report also outlines Welsh language competency requirements for all new posts and provides a summary of complaints. This includes complaints received by the Welsh Language Commissioner's Office, as well as for members of the public. And in 2024 to 25, the Council received just 3 complaints. 1 was direct from a member of the public and 2 by the Commissioner's Office. The report then concludes with an overview of work against the standards and outlines plans for 2025 to 26. This is on pages 24 to 26. So further details on that are available in the report. I would just like to say as well that Councillor John Harris, the Council's Welsh Language Elected Member Champion, along with the Welsh Language Implementation Group, has played a vital role throughout the year in ensuring that we meet our statutory responsibilities and in promoting the Welsh language both within the Council and across the city. We are pleased to welcome Councillor Hughes as the new Cabinet Member for the Welsh Language, and we look forward to working closely together to continue this important work just wondered if you'd like to say a few words, Councillor.
I'd just like to thank John Harris as well. It was a post that I held about 3 or 4 years ago. And reading the report, it's really pleased to see how we have developed even in that short period. I think for me, the pleasure of reading the report really was around the focus on the workforce, really, and how much work we've done on that workforce side. And I think you can write reports all day long, really, and I think that it's the lived experience of people who are Welsh speaking. As a Welsh first language Welsh speaker in the council, I can see how things have changed over that period, how things have changed in the city. When I first came to Newport 30 odd years ago, there was literally no Welsh identity to the city, Welsh language identity, and I look at what's happening now with the work that we run, and this year in particular, where we've had Welsh language bands play in venues throughout the city, which has just been unheard of, really, and I think that shows how things are changing and moving in the right direction. Similarly, there's things to do. We've got things to look forward to. We've got really great things happening in 2027 here, which is a huge opportunity for us to showcase what we have done and launch future work that we'll do. So I think there's a lot of things to be really proud of, I think, in the council and within the city. Like I said, it's that lived experience. I think the people that put the effort into learning Welsh, especially, they need to have opportunities to use Welsh as well and to see Welsh and to make it visible. And I think there'll certainly be a focus on that as we move towards the year. But I think, overall, the story in Newport is a remarkable one. I think for a city that started at almost zero, I think what we've done in the last period has been quite significant. And, even in my own ward in Caerleon, unheard of to speak Welsh in the streets. I'll probably speak Welsh once a week there at least now. And a lot more events like Mary Louise that come there where whole pubs singing Welsh all through the night. It's quite remarkable sometimes when you think about the progress that's been made. So I thank the officers responsible for this report, and for me consider it was a positive one to read. As it acknowledges really the experience in Newport. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So I would like to invite members to ask any questions and to agree this will be presented to Cabinet and Council.
Just to give you a little insight into perhaps Welsh is a little bit more embedded in Newport, because you think in 1963, and I know most of you weren't even born then. No, we weren't. Newport played the All Blacks at Rodney Parade, and the band came on and played God Save the Queen, as you expect. No Welsh national anthem, and the crowd, after a lot of booing, took up the anthem. So it was even in those days there was an underlying Welsh theme, I think, in Newport. Ms. Williams, would you like to talk to us about those complaints that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, so you can see in the report that they are detailed towards the end. So as I mentioned, 1 was received by a member of the public and 2 from the Welsh Language Commissioner's Office, and we detailed in the report the action taken.
With the question there, please.
Yes, the Welsh language version, presumably that's available on request, is it?
It will be translated once we finalised.
They will be published simultaneously once it's agreed by council. But we will be publishing, because the deadline for reporting is the 30th of June, so we will be publishing at the end of June as a draft copy, provided obviously Scrutiny and Cabinet are happy with the process, and then it'll be published. Both copies will be published as draft until adopted by council, and then we'll make it as a final.
Yeah, I did notice that actually. The fact it hasn't been endorsed by either council or cabinet by the deadline of 30th. Does that cause us any problems?
Yeah, so we have quite open conversations with the commissioner about that, and yeah, they're quite happy with that process, provided they know where the timescales are and that there is a published draft on the website by that deadline.
The rub is, I guess, it's a really good question, Councillor. The rub is that you have to get through the year and everything to be in and write a decent report. And this is, of all the annual reports, it's the first deadline and the only statutory deadline actually. So it's difficult to get through process by that time. But we will have a live pending draft translated on the website like that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're content?
Okay.
Do we have any questions from those online?
I'm content, sir.
No?
I shall make some comments. Some of them will be positive, some of them won't be positive. You know, I always think that it needs to be proportionate to ensure we get value for money for taxpayers. One good example of that is, like I said, the money you're spending for the Ymddiheuriadau in 2027. I think things like that are great initiatives. It's a small, it was an extra £100,000 from the cabinet the other day. Small amount of money which can potentially bring benefits. At the same time, I did notice, for instance, there was a video which I clicked on the link. You've got different page numbers. I think I'm using for the PDF version. So it's on page 8, I think, and it's many, I can't remember right, many something of Welshness by Sienna. And it's a little video she's done. And I looked, and it only had 53 views. Well, 54, because obviously I looked at it now. So I'm guessing, you know, are we still getting value for money for things like that? We're making these videos, and it was only had 53 views. You know, are we promoting correctly? Is it something which is, where's it gone? We probably get, how many views do we get for these scrutiny meetings? Not many. We'll get a few more now, I expect. But yeah, so one thing I do have an issue with, and I'll mention this just because it's the forum, is when we change names of organisations and only have the Welsh version. So an example of that is the Community Health Council. It's now called Slice. Okay, so we spent
for voice.
Yeah, so we spent a huge amount of money, and we don't have the translation of it. So if you look at Community Council, and I was talking to a doctor the other day who'd never even heard of this organisation. I've seen they've got glossy booklets, and they're spending, you know, a lot of money, and I just don't think it's helpful to just have a Welsh thing, which, you know, Women's Aid, Cyfarfod, just having one word, because everything else, great, it's bilingual, English and Welsh. So I think we should try and, the personal view, try and make it easier for people, for residents to, I think it was an organisation called Friend of Mine was another example where it's no longer in English. It used to help people in social services. So if somebody's looking for the information, it's not as easy to get through. But okay, that's just a personal view of mine. I did actually want some explanation. I couldn't work out the percentages. It's on page 16, I think, of my version. Welsh competency. I can't even say that in English. Welsh competency. Whatever it is. Yeah. If you look at the percentages at the bottom, of none, level 1, level 2, up to the thing, we've got sort of blank. So we've got, it adds up to, it says 29% of the council workforce, I think. Those some basic ones, I'm quite surprised about it. And it only adds up to 63%. It's, you know what page it's on the other version? 23, 24. But I'm looking at this thinking, and I know it's what people say, but I couldn't quite work. It seemed very high when then we just lose sort of a big percentage at the end. So,
well, let's not draw on it now. Can you have a look at the percentages and report back to us?
I think I could probably just give an explanation. I could just look at it and say, oh, this is something that staff. I think they probably used to be in the column thing, which is the percentage of staff who have not declared their Welsh language skills on self-service. Yeah,
that's probably quite good. That's going to hugely change the
absolutely
perception, because going from 29% or something of the workforce, but reality, if you take those other ones, it's going to be.
No, the percentages are right, Councillor Edwards. It's just a bit, the reason they roll it's up to 60% is 40% of staff have not declared anything.
Yeah, okay.
So
Yeah.
no, it's a valid point. It's just a call. This is an extra comment needs to go in.
Thanks.
And sometimes I think we'd support you in wanting things to be made as clear and as simple as possible. What do you want us to do with the slice report?
It's just an observation. I've seen that they all these brand new glossy brochures and pens and all these.
I can be clear that I'm a member of Slice.
Okay, fine.
And I can contact them because basically Slice changed because it took on social care as well as health. So Community Health Council couldn't be used because it took on social care. So well, I'll work with them and see whether Slice voice goes to the Slice. That's.
I just think the public would like to know, something easy. If voice means yes, voice concerns about your GPs, whatever it is, then just to make it easier for people. It's just,
I think it's a change of not culture, but a change of feeling. Because of it's a much bigger organisation taking on social care. Community Health Council wasn't appropriate. So they haven't come up with a new name and they came up with Slice.
Well, it's very kind of you to take it up, Councillor Harris, but do you think something you'd rather take it?
The point I was going to make is I think that's a valid comment that the committee can make. Obviously, we've got limited control over how the marketing, branding of relevant organisations, but I think it's a comment that you can include because obviously we can take that into consideration when we're doing things.
and I went to the older persons forum. Well, they said older person, I think it starts at 55, which is very young. Not for older persons.
It used to be 50.
So yeah, so and a lot of people hadn't heard of this new organisation. I think we want to Google easily. Thank you. I'm very happy.
So if we can move forward and to scrutiny officer, what's one we picked up?
Yes, so obviously I've got that recommendation about adding that extra column to the Welsh competency table to show the unknown language skills percentage. Apart from that, Chair, I've got, well, aside from Councillor Harris, very kindly saying you'll take the feedback to Slice. I've got just the contempt of the report as it stands.
Okay.
Unless there's anything else members want to add.
Anything you'd like to add, Councillor Hughes?
No, just to genuinely thank the officers involved in producing this report. Really, yeah, appreciative of the fact that it's a journey. You know, we haven't stopped at this point. We've got a long way to go. And you know, I think genuine commitment. I think within the authority, within the officers, they see that. Question I'm certainly getting in an early point is that we're looking forward to working ahead with you, looking forward to getting some good results on this. Yeah, it's a promising future.
And we're certainly looking forward to that step.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming along this morning.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Break for a couple of minutes. And now we're moving on to the scrutiny annual reports, and who's going to lead on this?
Me, Chair. So I was not going to spend a lot of time going through the report itself. This is an annual report that comes to your committee, just setting out the work of scrutiny over the year and the conclusion and the they've made. We have spent a bit of time this year reviewing the format and presenting it in an alternative way. I know Sam and Neil and Kathy spent a bit of time on putting this together with the support of comms in terms of the design. So hopefully we'll get some feedback on the committee's thoughts on the new approach to that. In terms of the things I wanted to highlight, I just wanted to reflect on some of the development work that's happened during the year for the community as well. So looking at the handbook, which has been revised and recently shared, which we've had some good feedback on, providing some training through the WLGA through the year, which we're going to build on for this year. We started the chairs meetings, I think it was about 12 months ago, so that's typically on a quarterly basis, so you can discuss workloads and how that hands across the committee so that things being covered and everybody's aware of where that sits. The monthly summaries was a new thing that was adopted based on feedback from the as well. So this is a roundup of everything that's going to take place in the coming year, so all key meetings and reports are going to be considered, and then also looking back in that same update on key decisions and recommendations that have been made throughout the preceding month. What I would like to hands up for, I'm just making apologies. I realise I haven't brought back the report that the committee requested on a bit of a comparison looking at scrutiny arrangements between us and other LAs. So again, I apologise for that, prioritise that now to bring back to you as soon as possible. What I would say is that on the research side of it, it needs to be formatted. There isn't a like-for-like comparison. You know, obviously each different local authority has different requirements, demographics and so forth. And as such, they've got different structure and arrangements for their committees. But we will bring that back to the committee at the earliest opportunity. So again, my apologies for not following up with that action. I think that was all that I wanted to share.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Do you have any comments, Mr. Warbank?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I've nothing to add to that. Leanne's covered everything that I would have said, but obviously happy to consider any questions that the committee have.
Thank you, that's fine. Questions then, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, talking about scrutiny comparisons, I think that would be useful. Also, how we've been talking for years about public engagement, how we actually get better public engagement. The other thing was just about recommendations we make, and that's an example have to come up the other day. And years ago, we were talking about training and making it easier for people to do online training because there were issues with a lack of people doing this training, and we have the technology for a simple example of we will give them a fishing short video, comes on, they answer the questions, and then it's logged. You've done this before. So a recommendation many years ago was to try and ensure a consistency, a single sign-on. And I guess all staff got the other day the one about carers and learning Wales, and Councillor Harris just tried to get onto it and
Not confusing on the website to see, but Cardiff Castle and the Newport logo is next to it, and you put John Dodd has it, or whatever. I didn't recognise it on the Newport side of it. So is it a Learning Wales website that's got us on there, or is it Newport's Florida got us on there?
So in terms of the e-learning, my understanding is the current platform that we're on, which we have been on for a few years, is a NHS platform that we've got a shared access contract with. And what I do know is that we are having a new system implemented in September, I think.
Yeah.
I think that recommendation has been taken
yeah,
on.
I appreciate that. But what I'm saying is it's taken a couple of years. The NHS website is absolutely useless. process, not. And I guess we've got 5,000 staff. The issue of care is important, that why we can't do our own, why we can't just have a single sign. But it's, you know, technology, we've got the technology there for doing it. Sorry.
Yeah, if I just agree, so with a decision we made to move off that, so we're going to go on to speak all the things. Yeah, I can get a note from the interested Tracy would be to answer the question. I can get a note from the service. They're telling me about time scales and what's happening with that. But essentially that will resolve.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Funny enough, because I keep it on my system until something's resolved, and it's 2 years.
Yeah.
And then we had the same email for the third year come through. I said, whoa. So I guess that's an example where we make a recommendation and it goes to cabinet. And then what happens and why does it take so long for certain things? Because I can guarantee that a lot of people won't do that because it's too onerous. And I'm not going to try it again.
Sorry, that's there. So what we haven't sat on our hands. What we've tried to do is make the system that we wrote, because essentially all of our data and information is on that current system. Which what we've tried to do is make it work, and actually it hasn't worked. And we've got a series, because these have gone through governance and audit committee. We've got a series of internal audits, which have also highlighted that as a specific issue. So basically, we've just come to the conclusion that we can't make the current platform work. We've made a decision on this new platform. I'll get a note about timescales around that, but it will be. So it doesn't mean we haven't done it.
No, okay. But I'm just, you know, I get frustrated on the timescales and it's recommended, and it will affect our attendance levels. And so, yeah, it's just how, as a scrutiny for them, stations and what happens to those in the system. Elements of how long do we keep them on the sales of my laptop? It's not going to stay on. You're still trying to get in there.
No, I was just looking at the head of it is an NHS site because it's learning with NHS Wales. So if you put your Newport email address in it, doesn't recognise it. It's a health NHS site. I guess that's why Newport one doesn't work.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the technical. It should work. You should have a login on there, rather. But you know, we as I said,
I'm just sort of highlighting.
But the point is taken.
But you come back to us when you finish.
I'll get a response to you from the service.
I've had one to say that. Yeah, it's just. Thank you.
I think in terms of recommendations, you know, it depends on where it goes, isn't it? So some of the recommendations are on specific reports, which then bind up as part of feedback, you know, when they go forward as decision-making reports. And sometimes we give the feedback to cabinet, sometimes it's to officers. So I know we've got, you know, a monitoring system almost from our perspective. I just wondered if there's any tweaks perhaps we need to make in the version that we share with the committee and that we publish, so that you've got something there, you know, to update on what we've done with that recommendation when it's gone.
Because we quite often make recommendations which go to cabinet, but I never hear the cabinet talking about our recommendations specifically. It's obviously in the reports, but so, you know, sometimes I think we take time to do things and make recommendations to hopefully improve things, and it might be nice occasionally to say, right, the cabinet taking it, they're doing this.
Well, I think we'll agree this isn't a cabinet issue, which is purely a technical issue, isn't it?
Yeah, it's how we find out what's happened, and so
You can take.
I'm very content, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor James.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay? Oh, I know what I've done.
We can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
There we go. Yeah, I just wanted to compliment the report, really. I found it very engaging. I know I've said a lot in these meetings about, you know, are the report writers thinking about their audience? Is the language they're using accessible? Is the layout accessible? And clearly the people who put this report together have really thought about all those things. I think if I were a member of public looking at the report, I'd come away with a greater understanding of what Scrutiny does, and a greater understanding of how I could get involved as well. So I'm really pleased to see that. A bit of feedback on the getting involved in Scrutiny. I personally would have made this is maybe a bit of a minor point, but I would have made this image smaller and split this up into subheadings, or at least put the public can opt to attend in person or watching online. Things like that can be in bold, so that if people are skim reading it, they can look at that page and immediately know how they can get involved. So splitting that information up and making it clearer really is the only way I'd improve the report.
Thanks, Councillor James, and yeah, appreciate the positive feedback. I'd say Sam, Neil, Catherine, and the work with them. So yeah, appreciate that feedback. It's great. Thank you.
You're seeking to improve it each year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we will build on and take on board the feedback from today. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Reynolds.
Hi, thanks, Chair. Just a couple of quick comments, really. Excuse me while I flick between screens. I was just, it's more to do with sort of comments and feelings rather than factual information, to be honest, but I just wondered what the officers' feelings were on the levels of communication and the feedback that you get between the various scrutiny committees, and also between the committees and Cabinet, and whether you think that could be improved in any way. And my other question then is to do, I think Councillor Evans has already touched on this actually, but one of my big sort of hobby horses, certainly when I was chair of another scrutiny committee, was public engagement. And I just wonder what the feelings are on trying to improve public involvement. I mean, these are public meetings, and as per usual, all the public chairs are empty. Are there ways that we could try maybe to increase the engagement of the public to make this more relevant for them? Might hopefully that might sort of improve levels of well, not improve, maybe hopefully reduce the levels of apathy and negativity we get towards sort of council decisions and the way things are run, if the public were more involved in what we actually do, why we have these scrutiny committees, what we're looking at, and how it affects them in sort of real life, if you like. So I just wonder what the comments were or the feelings were of officers on those issues.
Just to answer your point, Councillor Reynolds, all the scrutiny committees are actually advertised online, but with not much bling, if you like. So it doesn't jump off the page and say, we're going to discuss, as we are today, the Welsh language. So I wonder what we could do with our website in highlighting our scrutiny efforts a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking along the lines of, you know, if we got a scrutiny committee on a certain topic, that could be advertised and maybe invite. I know obviously people can't actively participate in these meetings. I get that, but maybe through the local councillors, put forward questions or put forward comments that they would like to be taken to scrutiny on their behalf. Just try and get people more involved and engaged in these processes, because I think from the public point of view, it's always a little bit removed, if you like. This seems to be this is finding our little sort of political bubble, if you like, but it seems a bit removed from the general public. I don't know how we improve that. I've just made one sort of possible suggestion, but I just wonder what the thoughts were on it, that's all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Mr. Warback, you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Reynolds' last point there was key. I mean, actually, from things that we're seeing published elsewhere, there does seem to be an increasing expectation that councils will take steps to involve the public in their scrutiny proceedings. I mean, my own view, if it assists, is I think what's key is finding out what the public would want to see scrutiny committees discussing. I think it's one thing saying you want to get the public at scrutiny committee meetings. I'd suggest the key to engaging them would be, I suppose, figuring out ways of getting the things that they want talked about onto the agenda. And that's what we're seeing from things elsewhere in Wales that have been published.
Yeah, if I could just sort of come back on that, if that's okay, Chair. Yeah, I totally agree with what you say there, Mike. I mean, just sort of an example from a previous scrutiny committee I've been on. You know, for example, say we had Newport Live and we were scrutinising Newport Live. You know, that's always a very positive meeting. But I just wonder whether maybe, as an example, we could put out adverts or social media posts and invite comments through the elected members for those areas. You know, what would people like to be? What would people like to be asked of, say, Newport Live or any other organisation that was scrutinising? It's just to get them, you know, involved in the process.
Well, can we leave that with Ms. Rowlands to have a little think about that and see what we can do? They're all points well made by both of you.
Yeah, can I just agree with Councillor Reynolds on that? Although I will say some of the topics we have, not being funny, the anti-poverty strategic plan, the information risk report, a lot of these reports are not going to set the public on fire. Not literally, obviously, but having said that, if we were talking about city centre and public engagement on something like that, I'll guarantee you'd get a lot of people who'd be interested to come along and give their views. So
yeah.
And you know, we're talking across all the committees. You know, some of the committees are a little more interesting than this one. And as you know, when we initially talked about the city centre and the PSPO on it,
yeah,
you know, we went for 5 hours and we had umpteen witnesses. So there is an interest in that area.
Yeah, I think public engagement is something we've identified as an area that we could investigate in the coming years. We're looking at the visibility, but also be part of the self-assessment exercise that we're going to be carrying out.
Okay. You content there, Councillor Reynolds?
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Any other questions? No? Well, then, should we move forward to the sections, Natalie, and tell us what you've gleaned from this?
Of course. I noted Councillor James's recommendation about tweaking the getting involved page just to make it a little bit easier to skim through, bolding things and just making it a little bit more accessible and visually appealing, I guess. I've noted that Reece said he would give us a response on training system timescales, and aside from that, I've just got the good content.
Okay.
Anything to add, members?
No, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, this morning. We're just moving on now to the scrutiny officer's reports.
It's okay with you, Chair. I'll do a very quick with through just to highlight the one apology from Councillor Davis. Just so that stands raised in the meeting. Do you want to do the minutes, agree the minutes, the last minutes now, or do you want to go through my sections first?
Do your sections,
yeah. So there's only the forward work programme attached at the minute because we're starting the new cycle of meetings with no actions or recommendations. Obviously, from today we will have a few more added. But just to sort of talk about the forward work programme, this is the committee's work programme. Is there anything people want to see added? Are they happy with sort of the spread of work? Are we happy to agree with it? Obviously, it's a rolling document, so we will continue to add items where the opportunity comes up. But yeah, I'm happy to sort of take members' questions or any discussion about that. And I should completely content, and that makes
Can I just sorry, the annual corporate wellbeing self-assessment, is that the same as the corporate plan?
Yes, it's
You would include.
I think it's been tweaked because of the self-assessment part of it, but that's a question for Flint's team. But yeah, it is essentially a corporate plan.
Obviously, some of these, I guess, if we're looking at maybe as a scrutiny committee, we could look at ways of engaging with the public as well as officers doing it. we've got a few blanks in there.
I'll take back to Leanne as well. We can have a little discussion about that.
But it feed into the business of what other councils do, you know, in England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland,
Do a bit of a
or even in Portugal or Spain or Germany or
Right.
you know.
I guess it's suggested site visit.
I don't think that will go down very well. Good examples and bad examples across.
When I became chair of this committee, I did do some research on other local authorities in Wales. It's not particularly easy to translate it over into England. You know, we do things somewhat differently. But I was more than content with the way that Newport operate their scrutiny committees when I looked at some of the other local authorities.
I think it'd be helpful for all of us.
Yeah, it can't hurt to have a look and see what we could do. But yeah, leave on with me about the public engagement. We'll have a little discussion and see what kind of ideas we can come up with, whether that's like a workshop or something like that. We'll have a little think and I'll bring something back to you. Okay.
Thank you.
So our next meeting now is the 26th. And it's quite quick jumping into things, and that'll be for the information risk report and our climate change annual report. But yeah, that's all for me at the minute, Chair. I know that Councillor Reynolds has popped online that he's content with full work programme, so is Councillor James. And Councillor Reynolds says he'll abstain from the vote right the minutes because he doesn't get.
Right.
Please.
Okay, thank you very much. I should have said when I went past the minutes that one of the key officers indicated they'd have to leave, so I deferred the minutes in the end. But I believe the minutes are not contentious, but I'll put that over to members. Okay, page 3 of the report. Can someone move those a reasonable record? Thank you, Councillor Harris. Secondly,
I can't say yes.
secondly, Councillor James, thank you very much. Any matters arising, please? I don't think there are, but and I note that the one thing that we asked for, the anti-poverty strategy, that there'll be 2 updates before the end of the current council, and that's in our forward programme for this year.
Yes, it's in priority for me to Chair.
Well, we have to give them a year to make
Yeah.
some sort of progress.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if there's no other business tomorrow, thank you very much for your attendance. Look forward to seeing you on the